Hi there, exercise 3C. It was actually in two parts, so this is 3C.1, and this one we're going to try to make sure we can complete the square. And I think the next one they really look at how to draw completed square and how to sketch functions once we know what they look like. Alright, so let's have a look at this starter first. It says, this I suppose is looking at graphs and quadratic graphs in particular, and you're meant to know from GCSE what these graphs look like. So this first one should really be fairly straightforward for you. You should know an x squared graph basically looks like this. It curves around, and we call this, well, this is y equals x squared. We call this graph a parabola. It's a posh name for it. And you may recognize this from the motion you get if you throw something up in the air. So if you throw something up in the air like a ball, something usually goes up, and then it comes down again. And if it's symmetrical, I know this picture isn't particularly symmetrical, but if it's symmetrical, that would be a parabola. An upside down version at least. Anyway, so this is the graph we wanted for this one. This one is exactly the same, apart from it says x squared plus 3. So, shock horror, it moves up 3. And it just does exactly the same thing, but just 3 higher. The last one, it's not so obvious, but at GCSE you learn about transformations of these things. And you probably understand that when it's a plus 3 in a bracket, for some reason it goes left. You'd kind of think it'd go right if it was going to go in that direction generally. But weirdly, this y equals x squared graph moves 3 that way, and it's called a translation. You probably again remember from GCSE, and it's gone 3 left, so I write minus 3, 0. 0 meaning it didn't move up and down at all. So anyway, that's what our 3 graphs are meant to look like. Completing the square again, it comes up at GCSE, but perhaps only very, very briefly. So this is a graph that we just had. It says we often need to be able to sketch a quadratic equation. One way of doing this is to draw its vertex, or at least to find its vertex. And now that's the vertex there. You'll notice it is at minus 2 across, and what's that, 3 up. Okay. The method that makes this easier is the completing the square method. And if you can do this, if you can find this vertex, you can sketch it. And that's a useful thing to be able to do in exams. And very often they say write it in this form. No, this is the complicated version. It's got a p at the front. X plus q all squared plus r. Sometimes that p is not there. And they might even have different letters like a and b and stuff. But notice that just means, can you complete the square please? So if you ever see that kind of expression where you got this squaredy thing, big bracket squaredy thing plus some other bits going on, that's probably just meaning, can you complete the square please? Might not say it. Oh, here's one already that says it. We've got some quadratic expression and it says, can you complete the square please? Well, it doesn't say that, but that's what you need to know. Can you write it in the form x plus q all squared plus r? So look, here's the trick. You take the middle number of x. Notice at the front there's only 1x squared, so that makes it easier. And I take the middle number of x, which is minus 2, and I halve it. There you go, x minus 1. All squared. Notice that? I've put it in this form that they tell me to. The critical thing is that I know that to get that q, what they've called q, I halve this number. Now weirdly, I have to square this number here. So I want you just to note that minus 1 times minus 1 equals plus 1. But I have to take away that answer. So having got from minus 1 to 1, I now have to take it away. Don't forget it says plus 4. So my final answer, and this is the final answer, x minus 1 all squared plus 3. Now you may not be convinced by that. So what I'm going to do is multiply out this just to check. So I'm just going to write check this. So you don't need to do this. If once you're good at this, you never have to do this again. But it says x minus 1 squared, and you should remember that x minus 1 squared means x minus 1 times x minus 1. Or it also says plus 3. So multiply out the brackets. Don't know how you do this. A variety of different ways. Smiley faces, or some people call this the crab method. So that's another x. Or you can just work it out in your head. Or don't forget the plus 3. And you'll notice I end up with x squared minus 2x plus 4, which of course is where I started, x squared minus 2x plus 4. So all this does is prove that this method I want you to do works. That's no more than that. You don't need to do it. So x minus 1 all squared plus 3. So what's now? It's x squared plus 5x minus 1. Well, I suppose it's the difference between GCSE and A-level. At GCSE, you would never have got a 5, or very rarely got a 5 there. It would have been 6, an 8, a 10. Notice even numbers. But now, I'm telling you to do it with an odd number. Now, the reason why I'm saying that makes it harder is because when I half an odd number, you get a decimal or a fraction. Personally, I prefer writing it as a fraction. And notice, rather than writing half of 5 is 2.5, I've written 5 over 2. Just what it is. Don't forget, the general form of this is it's a squaredy thing plus a number. So I'm going to write squared. And what did we do last time? Well, you will recall that last time I squared my number, and this time my number is 5 over 2, so I'm done 5 over 2 times 5 over 2, which is much easier as a fraction than it is as a decimal, which is why I prefer fractions. It's 25 over 4. So take it away. And don't forget, it says take away 1. We're nearly there, actually. This is how easy this method is, x plus 5 over 2 squared. Now, you've got to say to yourself, what is take away 1 here? And it's 4/4. So I've got 25/4 minus another 4/4, which is 29/4. I reckon that's my answer. And that is indeed my answer. Okay. Next one. Now, these are the hardest type. You've got a 2 at the front. So when you have a number or even a minus sign at the front, you have to take out that 2 for the, well, this is a slightly weird thing, only the first 2 terms. You can do all 3, but what you'll find is it's easy if you only do the first 2. So it says 2x squared plus 12x, so I'm going to factorize it and write plus 6x plus 1. Now, this bit isn't the bit that I'm now going to complete the square on. Okay? Because of that 2, it's a bit more complicated. And by the way, that's why there's this p here now at the front. So with this thing, remember what we did? We always halved the number of x's. So I'm going to do exactly that. I need to write this square bracket first, though. But then I can put my curly bracket and write x. Now, half of 6 is 3. Remember, it's always all squared. So all squared. But don't forget, when you do this, you have to square the 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm going to take away 9. Put my square bracket. Oh, nearly forgot. It says plus 1. So outside the bracket, that has to be outside the bracket. So the next line is going to say 2 lots of, well, actually, I can do my 2 lots of this bracket and 2 lots of that 9. And I multiply out my big bracket. 2x plus 3 all squared. 2 9s are 18. It says minus, and minus 18. Don't forget the plus 1. Notice I don't times the 2 by the 1 because the 1 isn't in the big square bracket. And my final line, I'm there already. 2 lots of x plus 3 all squared minus 17. So let's see if that's right. Yes, 2x plus 3 all squared minus 17. So a very similar one now. It's got a 4x squared. You'll notice this is the standard thing that you get asked for. Whether it's got an a at the front is determined by whether you've got a funny number at the front. But I've got 4x squared, so notice the first thing I do is take out 4 as a common factor this time. Only again of the first 2 terms, because it doesn't help if I do the third term. You can, as I say. But when I factorise, I get x squared, I think, plus 3x. Which is a bit of a pain, because it's an odd number, that 3, but I've still got to do it. So it's 4 lots of. Now, remember what you do. You half this 3. Half of 3 is 1.5, but I said to you last time, I don't like decimals here, because 1.5 squared is harder than just writing 3 over 2 and squaring that instead. Now, remember what you do. You square it. So if you times a fraction by itself, you top times top, bottom times bottom. It's 9 over 4. And remember, you always take that away. Close the square bracket, and don't forget the minus 5 bit at the end in this case. So what's this equal to? Well, this is where I can work that out. It's 4 lots of the x plus 3 over 2 all squared. And it's 4 lots of that. Now, look, it says 9 over 4, so I'm dividing by 4, but I'm times by 4. They cancel out. Minus 9. Don't forget the minus 5. This then is 4 lots of x plus 3 over 2 all squared minus 14. Any more? Well, first of all, it's right. That's always a good sign. Yes, I have. I've got a back. Oh, now this is a backward one for a start. Notice it doesn't say x squared at the front. So the very first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to they're going to be cheeky, I'm going to put it back in the order I expect it. I always expect these to have x squareds followed by x's followed by a number. Notice this doesn't say plus 6, but it must be because there's no sign, so it's positive. Next thing is treat that minus like a minus 1. Take it out as a common factor. And you take out the minus 1, again, of only the first two parts. And that gives you x squared. Now, if you take out a minus from a minus, you just get positive. That's why it's x squared plus 4x. Don't forget your 6. Notice I haven't done anything with this yet. Oh, I was half this number. So it's minus, and put it in the square bracket followed by my curly bracket, x plus 2 all squared. Don't forget, this is 2 times 2. I have to times by itself, which is 4. So I take that away, plus the 6. Okay. What now? Well, I always multiply out the bracket now. So that's minus lot of this horrible thing. And a minus times a minus is a plus. Don't forget your plus 6. So I suppose it's minus x plus 2 all squared plus 10. And if you're interested, the a is effectively the minus. So I'm going to write that as minus 1. The b is 2 and the c is 10. Now I haven't done that this time. Sometimes people want you to do that. But the only reason I did it here was because it was a bit less obvious than normal. A is minus 1 because of that minus at the front. And that's the right answer. So that's it. That's the end of the lesson. In class we will practice exercise 3C, and I hope that makes sense.